Get this gutter rat out of my sight before her poverty infects us all. Beatrice Vanderbilt's voice, sharp as shattered crystal, cut through the genteel hum of the Getty Center's annual charity gala. Her gloved hand, heavy with a diamond the size of a robin's egg, cracked across Amara's face with a sound that seemed to silence the entire city of Los Angeles. Have you ever been cornered, judged, and sentenced before you could even speak a word? Have you ever felt the weight of 100 pairs of eyes branding you as something you're not? If you have ever felt that sting of injustice, that rage that burns in your chest when you are utterly misunderstood, then hit that subscribe button and ring the bell right now. Because this story is for you, and for every person who has ever been told they don't belong. 3 other Vanderbilts, moving with the predatory grace of a wolf pack, closed in. Richard Vanderbilt, the heir apparent to their corporate empire, snatched the simple pashmina from Amara's shoulders, yanking her backward. She stumbled, crashing into a waiter's serving table. A tower of champagne flutes disintegrated, showering her in shattered glass and Moet and Chandon. The sticky liquid soaked into her simple black dress as horrified gasps rippled through the crowd. Clarissa Vanderbilt, a social media piranha with 4.2 million followers, kicked Amara's fallen purse, its humble contents scattering across the Italian marble. "Oh my God, look at that thing," she sneered, her phone already held high, broadcasting live. "Is that from Target? I think I'm going to be sick." Congressman Harrison Vanderbilt, the family patriarch, pointed the tip of his silver-headed cane at Amara's heart, his voice booming with a politician's practiced authority. "Security, remove this vagrant at once. She is clearly a threat to the safety of my family and our distinguished guests." Fun. They formed a perfect, predatory circle around her. 200 of LA's wealthiest citizens, a glittering sea of couture gowns and bespoke tuxedos, didn't intervene. Instead, they pulled out their phones. A forest of glowing screens rose in the opulent hall, the flashes of their cameras like 1,000 tiny, stabbing lights. Amara stood frozen in the center of the storm, champagne dripping from the ends of her hair, surrounded by the most powerful family on the West Coast. Her quiet, stunned dignity seemed to only fuel their contempt. It was a coordinated, public execution of a person's character. Have you ever been so completely outnumbered that the very air you breathe feels hostile? Clarissa's livestream was the evening's new, unexpected entertainment. "Hey, my beautiful people," she purred into her phone, her voice a theatrical mix of disgust and excitement. "We are live from the Getty, and you will not believe what we just caught. A literal party crasher trying to steal champagne!" The comment section erupted into a feeding frenzy. "Get her, Clarissa!" "OMG, that dress is hideous!" "Call the police! Check her pockets!" Beatrice stepped closer, her Van Cleef and Arpels necklace catching the light as she gestured dismissively toward Amara. "Richard, call building security. I want her arrested. She obviously snuck in through the kitchens. The help is getting so bold these days." "Already on it, Mother," Richard said, his own phone out, not live streaming but snapping photos of Amara with cold, corporate efficiency. He was gathering evidence, building a case. "Look at the fabric on that dress. Polyester blend. Probably cost less than the canapes." Clarissa's manicured finger stabbed at her screen, her voice dripping with venomous glee. "Guys, my followers are going nuts. Jenna Lay says she looks like she has warrants. Fire emoji, skull emoji. You guys are savage tonight. I love it." Congressman Vanderbilt tapped his cane impatiently. "In my 40 years in Washington, I've seen this type 1,000 times. They read about these events in the tabloids and develop delusions of grandeur, thinking they can just show up and breathe our air." He leaned forward, studying Amara like a biologist examining a particularly unpleasant insect. "Security will find she has a record. They always do." They had found their rhythm, their cruel symphony. They circled her slowly, each one delivering a new cut, a fresh wound for their rapt audience, both in the room and online. "Look at those shoes," Beatrice sneered. "Are those from Payless? Or did she steal them from a bowling alley?" "The hair extensions are so obvious," Clarissa giggled to her 4.2 million viewers. "My fans are literally dying right now. We're trending, you guys. Ultraund Gutter Gala is trending." Richard, ever the businessman, moved closer, his voice low and menacing. "Ma'am, I am the CEO of Vanderbilt Holdings. I know the exact cost of every single object in this room, down to the last sterling silver fork. Your entire net worth wouldn't cover the tax on my watch. So I ask you, what are you doing here?" The Getty's head of security, a retired LAPD captain named Frank Miller, finally arrived, his face a mask of weary professionalism. He'd seen everything in his career, from art thieves to celebrity meltdowns. But this felt different. The coordinated cruelty of it was chilling. Just then, the Gala's host, a famous actor, spoke over the sound system. "Ladies and gentlemen, a reminder that in just 10 minutes, our main auction will close. Final bids are now being accepted for tonight's centerpiece, the spectacular digital artwork known as the Weaver's Code." Beatrice's eyes sharpened. "Perfect timing. Frank, we need this refuse removed before the important part of the evening begins. I am the chair of this museum's board. I want her gone. Now." Clarissa's live stream exploded. The viewer count rocketed past 50,000 and was climbing exponentially. Her comment section became a cesspool of classism and racism, which she made no attempt to moderate. It was driving her engagement through the roof. "Get her out. Check her for weapons. Maybe she's an illegal. Call ICE." The congressman leveraged his political power, pulling out his phone. "I have the police commissioner on my personal cell. One call from me, and this isn't just trespassing. It's a potential federal investigation. Is that what you want?" His threat hung in the air, heavy and absolute. Amara stood in the center of their perfectly executed assault, champagne still staining her dress. She finally moved, reaching into her simple black clutch for a tissue to wipe her face. As she opened the purse, for a brief second, several items became visible. A diplomatic passport, the corner of an obsidian black credit card with no name or number, only a single embedded microchip. A phone screen, dark, but showing over 100 missed call notifications from secured numbers. Frank Miller, the security chief, noticed the passport but couldn't make out the country of origin. He was starting to feel a deep, gut-level anxiety about this situation. Richard pressed his advantage, sensing weakness. "I employ every major private security firm in this state. Once I make a few calls, you won't even be able to get a job as a mall cop in Bakersfield, assuming you have the legal right to work here in the first place," Beatrice added, her voice a silken dagger. Clarissa's viewer count hit 75,000. Her own fame was skyrocketing on the back of Amara's humiliation. "Guys, she's just standing there," Clarissa narrated breathlessly. "Like, does she not get that she's been caught? The sheer audacity is, like, unreal." Amara's phone buzzed again and again, a relentless, silent vibration against her skin. Encrypted alerts from the Financial Times, secure messages from Reuters. The screen lit up repeatedly with caller IDs that simply read, "Secured line, Pentagon and unknown caller, Treasury Dept." She made no move to answer. The museum director, a flustered man named Arthur Pence, finally scurried over, his face pale. The Vanderbilt family were his largest donors. Their displeasure could mean the end of his career. "Ma'am," he began, his voice trembling slightly, "I'm very sorry, but I must insist you show me your invitation and some form of identification." Amara looked up from cleaning a champagne smudge off her hand. For the first time since the slap, she spoke. Her voice was quiet, calm, and utterly devoid of fear. "I would like to make a phone call first." "Denied," Frank Miller said, his training kicking in despite his misgivings. "You can call your lawyer from the precinct." Beatrice smiled, a triumphant, predatory flash of white teeth. "You see? They always want to make one call when they're caught red-handed." The crowd of wealthy guests had grown larger, a silent, judging jury. The forest of glowing phone screens pressed closer, a digital mob hungry for the final takedown. Clarissa's stream hit 100,000 live viewers. The comments were now a torrent of pure hatred. Amara glanced at her watch, a simple, elegant Patek Philippe, but its brand was subtle, recognizable only to those with a true connoisseur's eye. 8 minutes until the auction closed. Her phone screen lit up again. This time, Frank Miller was close enough to see the caller ID. It wasn't a name. It was a seal, the official seal of the United States Department of the Treasury. The Vanderbilt sensed the kill was near. They had isolated their target, controlled the narrative, and mobilized every form of power they possessed: social, financial, political, and physical. Amara stood utterly alone, boxed in by LA's elite with nowhere left to run. "Last chance," Congressman Vanderbilt declared, his voice echoing with finality. "Walk out of here on your own, or you will be carried out in handcuffs." The situation escalated. Richard, phone pressed to his ear, had moved beyond museum security. "Yes, it's Vanderbilt. I need a private tactical team at the Getty Center, executive suite. We have a hostile trespasser, possible corporate espionage threat. Authorize full surveillance and background protocols. I want to know who her parents were by the time you cuff her." His voice was the ice-cold command of a man who had never been told no in his life. Clarissa's live stream had become a global phenomenon. 125,000 viewers. "Okay, my beautiful, beautiful people, we are at 125K. This is literally the most viral I have ever gone." She adjusted her phone's angle, framing Amara's face, which she hoped was about to crumple in tears. "Security is about to drag her out. Should I follow them outside to get the arrest footage? Smash that heart button if you want to see the perp walk." The comments were a toxic avalanche. "Make her famous for being trash. I bet she has drugs on her. Strip search her. Why is she so calm? She's probably a sociopath." Congressman Vanderbilt was deep into his power play. "Commissioner, Harrison Vanderbilt, I need a priority 1 response at the Getty. We have a highly unstable individual who has breached a high-security private event. Potential threat to public figures." He paused, listening. "Yes, the same Harrison who sits on the Appropriations Committee that oversees your department's annual budget. I expect a 10-minute response time." Amara stood in the eye of this hurricane of her own making, still methodically cleaning the champagne from her dress. 6 minutes remained until the auction for The Weaver's Code closed. The museum director was wringing his hands, his face slick with sweat as more of his board members arrived, drawn by the commotion. Alienating the Vanderbilts would cost the museum tens of millions in donations. "Ma'am, please, you must understand our position," he pleaded with Amara. "These are our most valued patrons. If you would just cooperate." Beatrice smelled victory. "Exactly. We have donated over $100 million to this institution over the past 40 years. Are you going to protect us, your patrons, or this intruder?" The security team had now swelled. The Getty's guards were joined by Richard's private tactical unit, 6 men in sharp black suits with earpieces, their posture screaming law enforcement. 10 men now formed a loose perimeter around Amara, awaiting the final order. Clarissa's engagement metrics were off the charts. Her follower count was ticking up by thousands per minute as her stream was shared across every platform. "OMG, guys! My phone is literally melting! We're about to hit 150,000 viewers!" Amara's phone continued its relentless, silent buzzing. This time, she glanced down long enough for Frank Miller to see a string of notifications from a single, encrypted app he recognized from his time in the service. Signal. The sender for all of them was the same. Ethel Red. "Probably her dealer blowing up her phone," Richard commented with a cruel smirk. Beatrice's voice cut through the noise. "I want her searched, right now. Check for stolen wallets, jewelry, drugs, whatever filth people like this carry." The suggestion electrified the audience. The phone cameras pushed in closer, hungry for the humiliation of a body search. Richard's tactical team was 3 minutes out. "Full background check is already running," he announced. "We're running facial recognition against every federal and state database. We'll know everything about you, down to your high school grades, within the hour." The congressman rejoined the huddle. "LAPD is dispatching 6 units. I may have suggested the suspect was making terroristic threats. Better safe than sorry." He shrugged, a casual gesture that conveyed the immense casual power he wielded. Amara looked at her watch again. This time a flicker of something, not fear, but perhaps annoyance, crossed her face. 5 minutes until the auction closes." The crowd sensed the climax. This was better than any movie premiere. Clarissa saw the dramatic potential. 150,000 viewers, my loves. This is literally the biggest moment of my career. I think she's about to have a complete and total breakdown." Frank Miller's radio crackled. Multiple LAPD units responding, Code 3, ETA 4 minutes. Beatrice's smile was a predatory slash. "Perfect. I want this fully documented for the lawsuits. Trespassing, disturbing the peace, assault with a champagne flute, and attempted theft." Amara's phone lit up with what looked like an incoming video call. She glanced at the screen, and for the first time all evening, her eyes widened, just slightly. "Time's up," Congressman Vanderbilt declared, pointing his cane at Amara's chest like a sword. "No more delays, no more games." The security perimeter tightened. 10 guards, 4 Vanderbilts, and 200 phone cameras formed concentric circles of judgment around one woman in a champagne-soaked dress. Clarissa's stream peaked. Comments flooded in faster than the human eye could read. "This is better than Netflix. She looks terrified now. Get her!" Richard's private tactical team swept into the museum's main hall. They were professionals, efficient. They carried zip-tie restraints. They moved through the crowd like sharks through water. Amara was completely surrounded. Every exit was blocked. Every escape route monitored. The Vanderbilt family had achieved total tactical superiority. Beatrice raised her voice, a grand pronouncement for the assembled elite. "Let this be a lesson to everyone. There are consequences when people forget their proper place in society." The crowd murmured its approval. The natural order was being restored. Amara's phone rang again. She looked at the caller ID, took one long, slow breath, and made a decision that would detonate the entire evening. But instead of answering, she did something no one expected. She simply turned her phone's screen, holding it steady for Frank Miller, the head of security, to see. His expression changed instantly. The color drained from his weathered face. "Sir," he whispered urgently to the museum director, his voice hoarse. "Sir, we have a very, very big problem." Clarissa's live stream, still rolling, captured his reaction in perfect high-definition clarity. 175,000 viewers watched a confident, veteran cop transform into a man who looked like he had just seen a ghost. The museum director leaned in to see the screen. His knees physically buckled. "Oh my God," he breathed, grabbing onto a pedestal for support. "Oh my sweet God!" Beatrice sensed the shift in power. "What is it? What's wrong? Just arrest her!" But Frank Miller was already stepping backward, his hands raised in a gesture of stunned surrender. The tide wasn't just about to turn. It was about to become a tsunami. 3 minutes until the auction closes." Amara didn't say a word. She simply turned her phone screen, slowly, deliberately, toward the crowd. Frank Miller stumbled backward as if he'd been physically shoved. His radio slipped from his hand and clattered to the marble floor, the sound echoing through the suddenly silent hall. "Stand down," he choked out. "All units, stand down, immediately. That is a direct order." The museum director's face was ashen. "Ma'am," he stammered, his voice cracking. We had no idea. Please, accept our most sincere—" "What is on that phone?" Beatrice demanded, the first hint of fear creeping into her voice. The screen didn't show a Forbes profile. It showed something far more terrifying. It was a live, active administrator's dashboard for a private financial network. The heading at the top read, "Ethel Red Capital, Global Asset Management, Live." On the screen, blinking in real time, were financial data streams that made no sense to most, but to the few who understood, they represented the movement of global economies. Below that, a single prominent notification was displayed: an incoming encrypted video call from the United States Secretary of the Treasury. The subject line read, "Urgent. Vanderbilt Holdings debt restructuring. Immediate decision required." Clarissa's livestream hit 200,000 viewers. Her followers, many of whom worked in finance, started taking screenshots. The comment section transformed from a lynch mob into a frenzy of panicked recognition. "Wait, is that the Ethel Red dashboard? No fucking way." "Ethel Red Capital? They're a ghost. They don't have a CEO." "Holy shit. Vanderbilt Holdings is on the screen, with the Treasury Secretary." "She is Ethel Red. She's the ghost." Richard Vanderbilt read the screen, and his phone slipped from his nerveless fingers. His top-of-the-line device shattered on the marble, the sound of its destruction a pale echo of his own dawning horror. Ethel Red Capital was the shadowy private equity firm that had been buying up corporate debt across the globe. They were known in the highest financial circles as the Ghost, an entity with no public face, no CEO, only a mythical anonymous founder known simply as Ethel Red. They were more powerful than most nations, and they held the majority of his company's debt. That's not possible," he stammered, his legendary corporate confidence evaporating into thin air. You look so normal." Amara finally looked him in the eye. Her voice was quiet steel. "I don't need a $10,000 suit to prove my worth, Richard. Apparently, you do." The shockwave spread through the crowd like a contagion. Guests who had been filming Amara's humiliation were now frantically deleting the videos, their faces pale with the horrifying realization that they had just gleefully participated in the public assault of one of the most powerful and secretive individuals on the entire planet. Board members who had stood by and watched now pushed forward, desperate to distance themselves from the Vanderbilt's cataclysmic miscalculation. "Miss Sterling," the museum chairman gasped, appearing from nowhere. "Amara Sterling, we had no idea you were attending tonight. Your foundation's generous contribution was processed anonymously." Congressman Vanderbilt gripped his silver cane, his knuckles white. His political survival instincts were screaming. Ethel Red Capital's Political Action Committee was the largest dark money donor in Washington. They had single-handedly financed a dozen congressional campaigns. He had just threatened to have their founder arrested. Beatrice's meticulously constructed world of social dominance tilted on its axis and shattered into a million pieces. "But your dress is so simple," she whispered, her mind grasping for any piece of logic in the terrifying new reality that was consuming her. Amara's expression remained placid. "I prefer substance over flash, Beatrice, a concept your family has clearly never encountered." Her second phone, the one with the diplomatic passport, began to ring. The caller ID made Richard's remaining blood run cold. It was the lead director of his own board. The notification below it was a cascade of missed calls that painted a picture of global urgency. Richard Vanderbilt, 42 missed calls. Goldman Sachs, private equity desk, 28 missed calls. Pentagon, Comptroller's office, 18 missed calls. The White House, Chief of Staff, 7 missed calls. G7 Finance Ministers Council, 3 missed calls. Amara declined the call from Richard's board with deliberate, agonizing slowness, her finger hovering over the screen for maximum psychological effect. "Your board has been trying to reach me for the past 2 hours," she said, her voice casual. "Something about renewing a line of credit worth $900 million. They seem to think you've done something to jeopardize your relationship with your primary lender." The security team that had surrounded her moments ago now backed away as if she were radioactive. Richard's private tactical team looked at him with expressions of betrayal and fear. They were seconds away from zip-tying a woman who could buy and sell their entire company with the pocket change in her clutch. Clarissa's live stream hit 250,000 viewers. Her phone was now so hot it was painful to hold, but she kept filming, her influencer brain recognizing this as the single greatest story in the history of social media. "Oh, my God," she whispered into the camera, her voice trembling. "You guys, I can't even—" The museum director finally found his voice, driven by sheer professional terror. "Miss Sterling, on behalf of the Getty Center, I must deeply, profoundly apologize for this. This inexcusable treatment of our most generous—" Amara raised one hand, a small, quiet gesture. The entire cavernous room fell instantly silent. "I tried to tell you I belonged here." Her voice, though never raised, commanded the attention of everyone. "I'm tonight's largest individual donor." Beatrice's legs gave out. She slumped into the nearest chair, her diamond bracelet catching on the velvet upholstery as she struggled to comprehend the scale of their mistake. "Largest donor?" she croaked. Amara reached into her simple clutch and produced a folded document. The letterhead was from the Getty's own major gifts department. "Pledge confirmation. Donor, the Ethel Red Foundation. Anonymous. Amount, $75,000. Date, earlier today. Purpose, acquisition fund for underrepresented digital artists. Processing. Status, completed." The number seemed to glow on the page, dwarfing every other donation of the evening combined. Richard's mind, trained for corporate warfare, finally calculated the consequences. His company's debt, their quarterly earnings, 30,000 jobs across 4 continents, his entire legacy. All of it was dependent on the woman they had just publicly assaulted and humiliated in front of 200 witnesses and 250,000 live viewers. "Amara," he whispered, using her first name for the first time, his voice broken. "The debt. Ethel Red holds 72% of your total corporate debt," she confirmed quietly. $940 million. Your largest and only creditor. The congressman's political calculus was running at light speed. His committee chairmanships, defense budget authorizations, the tech industry campaign contributions his entire career was built on. All of it could be wiped out by a single phone call from the woman he'd just called a vagrant and threatened with his cane. The auction timer on the large screen at the front of the room hit 0. The auction for the Weaver's Code was over. Amara's deadline had passed. But that no longer seemed to matter. Amara's voice cut through the stunned silence like a scalpel. "Since the Vanderbilt family is so intensely interested in my affairs, allow me to provide you all with a comprehensive education." She pulled a slim, carbon fiber tablet from her clutch, moving with the measured calm of someone who commanded armies of lawyers and analysts. This was no spontaneous act of revenge. This was a pre-planned execution. Beatrice Vanderbilt. Amara's eyes locked on the matriarch. Your late husband's philanthropic foundation. The one that bears your family name. The one that is the entire bedrock of your social reputation. Beatrice went white as Amara swiped on the tablet, bringing up a series of official-looking financial documents. You have a single, massive, anonymous donor, coded in all your tax filings as Benefactor 001. This benefactor has contributed over $300 million to your foundation over the last 7 years. Amara's voice remained unnervingly conversational, which made the revelations all the more devastating. The Children's Hospital wing named after you, the scholarship programs for underprivileged students, the modern art acquisitions, the homeless shelter funding that gets you photographed for the society pages. She swiped again. Wire transfer records, bank statements, encrypted emails. Each document was a nail in the coffin of Beatrice's identity. The Vanderbilt Family Foundation would be insolvent by morning without my continued anonymous support. 30 full-time employees would be jobless. 4 hospitals would lose critical funding. 50 scholarship students would have their education terminated. Your entire social legacy would cease to exist within 6 months. Beatrice grabbed the arm of her chair, her diamond bracelet trembling as her world dissolved around her. Amara then turned to Richard, who stood frozen, knowing the predator was now circling him. Vanderbilt Holdings, last fiscal year's revenue, $3.2 billion. Amara's finger traced a line on a financial statement displayed on her tablet. Debt service payments to Ethel Red Capital, $940 million. That's nearly 1/3 of your gross revenue, Richard. Your company doesn't survive without me allowing it to survive. She brought up another document, a thick digital contract with official government seals watermarking every page. Federal Reserve Contract 7 Gamma, signed 2 years ago. This contract, which I control, provides the liquidity and credit guarantees that allow your company to operate on a global scale. She zoomed in on a specific clause, the text glowing red. Page 82, subsection 19, the morality clause, and I quote, Ethel Red Capital reserves the right to immediately call in all outstanding debt and terminate all credit lines for conduct by any principal officer or their immediate family deemed detrimental to public reputation, ethical standards, or organizational values. She turned the tablet slightly, a gesture of pure, cold power. Your stock price, your quarterly earnings, your board's confidence, the jobs of 30,000 people, all of it, right here. Richard physically staggered as if he'd been shot. His company couldn't survive that. It would be a global bankruptcy, a headline in every financial paper in the world. Clarissa, desperate to salvage her collapsing digital kingdom, stammered, I can delete the live stream right now. I can issue a public apology. I can do whatever you— 4.2 million followers, Amara interrupted, not even bothering to look up from her tablet. Her disinterest was more brutal than any anger. Daily reach of 600,000 people. Your influencer brand partnerships generate approximately $5 million a year. Amara swiped to another folder, this one thicker than the others. Clarissa's heart stopped as she saw the logos of every brand that sponsored her. LVMH, your primary sponsor. My investment firm, Ethel Red Capital, owns a 58% controlling stake in their parent company through our luxury goods portfolio. Amara's finger moved down the screen. Contract termination clause allows for immediate cancellation for any activity that causes reputational damage to their associated brands. Clarissa's phone, still somehow live and clutched in her hand, captured her complete psychological collapse in 4K resolution. Your Chanel partnership, terminated for cause, forfeiting $3 million in annual fees. Your Tiffany collaboration, morality clause violation, resulting in a lawsuit for brand damages. Your exclusive arrangement with Bergdorf Goodman. My retail investment fund controls their partnership budget. That budget is now zero. Amara swiped to another tab. Your Beverly Hills penthouse. The mortgage is held by Ethel Red Real Estate Investment Trust. Your G-Wagon, leased through our automotive lending division. Your entire lifestyle, Clarissa, is financed by me. One phone call and every contract, every financing agreement, every sponsorship deal is terminated. Your influencer career, your home, your transportation, all of it is gone before the sun comes up. Finally, she turned to Congressman Harrison Vanderbilt. He tried to muster some political authority, his voice trembling. Amara, surely you understand the delicate nature of government relations. $22 million. Amara's interruption was absolute. Over 4 election cycles. From my political action committee, Americans for a Stable Economy, plus a dozen subsidiary PACs registered in Delaware and Nevada. She pulled up detailed campaign finance reports, every donation highlighted, every legal loophole annotated. Your seat on the House Armed Services Committee, my written endorsement to the Speaker of the House, secured that for you. The Defense Appropriations Subcommittee. I personally testified in your favor during your confirmation hearing. The congressman's silver cane shook uncontrollably. That new tech campus in your district, 20,000 jobs. The one you take credit for at every rally. Amara brought up a final page, this one marked with bright red tabs, the digital equivalent of a top-secret classification. My company owns and operates that entire facility under an exclusive government contract. The annual economic impact on your state is over $1 billion. Furthermore, ethics investigations can be triggered by formal complaints. One complaint from a major defense and technology contractor about discriminatory behavior by a sitting congressman would result in the immediate suspension of your security clearances. That tech campus would shut down pending the investigation. 20,000 of your constituents would be unemployed. Your state's economy would be devastated. Your political career would be terminated with extreme prejudice. Amara set the tablet down and addressed all 4 of them, her voice now carrying the weight of someone who had negotiated with world leaders and moved global markets. So, here is what happens next. You each have exactly one choice: total compliance or total annihilation. Her words hung in the air, inescapable and absolute. Beatrice, you will broadcast a public apology, live, across all major news networks within 24 hours. You will immediately resign from all your charity boards with written statements detailing your discriminatory and unethical behavior, and you will personally donate $20 million of your own money to the ACLU, processed and confirmed within 48 hours. The alternative? I withdraw all funding from the Vanderbilt Foundation. It collapses, and your late husband's name becomes a synonym for fraud. Your social reputation is permanently erased. She turned to Richard. Richard Vanderbilt, you will issue a public apology to all employees and shareholders within 12 hours. You will implement a mandatory company-wide unconscious bias and sensitivity training program designed by my consultants within 30 days. And you will promote 3 highly qualified women of color to your C-suite before the end of the quarter. The alternative, I invoke the morality clause. Your $900 million debt is called due. Your stock price plummets to zero. 30,000 people lose their jobs before the end of the month. Your company is liquidated by February. Clarissa was openly weeping now, as Amara's cold gaze fell upon her. Clarissa Vanderbilt, you will immediately delete all content related to tonight's events. You will then record and publish a sincere, detailed public apology video to your followers within 6 hours. For 1 full year, You will use your platform exclusively to promote non-profits that combat cyberbullying and support minority-owned tech startups. You will donate 100% of your influencer earnings for the next 2 years to these causes, with a public, audited accounting. Clarissa's phone finally died, its battery depleted, ending the live stream that had both created and destroyed her career. The alternative? I contact every one of your brand partners. Every sponsorship is terminated for moral turpitude. Your influencer career is over. We will then sue you for defamation and harassment. You will become a global case study in the consequences of privilege and the misuse of social media. Finally, she faced the congressman. Congressman Harrison Vanderbilt. You will hold a press conference on the steps of the Capitol within 1 week, announcing your support for new, expanded anti-discrimination legislation. You will return my $22 million in campaign contributions with interest to established civil rights organizations, with full public documentation. And you will co-sponsor 3 major equality and corporate accountability bills in the next congressional session, actively championing them until they are passed. The alternative: I will testify before the House Ethics Committee about this evening's events, providing them with full documentation of your financial and political history. The investigation into your security clearances will begin immediately. Your political career will end in a scandal that will be taught in history classes, and that tech campus in your district will be permanently closed, devastating your state's economy. Amara glanced at her watch. The Patek Philippe gleamed under the museum lights. You have exactly 60 seconds to decide: compliance or destruction. The Great Hall of the Getty Center had become a courtroom, and privilege, for the first time in its life, was on trial and found itself utterly, hopelessly guilty. Beatrice broke first. I accept," she whispered, her voice the fragile sound of broken porcelain. The matriarch who had ruled LA society for 40 years now looked like a frightened old woman. Richard followed, his corporate survival instincts seizing control. Ethel Red Capital will receive full and complete compliance from Vanderbilt Holdings. All requirements will be met. His voice was the hollow sound of a king who had just willingly handed over his crown to save his kingdom from being burned to the ground. Clarissa just nodded frantically, unable to speak through her shuddering sobs. Her perfect, curated world had been dismantled in front of 250,000 people. Congressman Vanderbilt, his face a grim mask, straightened his shoulders. I accept my responsibility for my actions, and I will commit to the legislative agenda you have proposed. Amara picked up her tablet. Excellent. My legal team will deliver the detailed compliance documents to each of you within the hour. Failure to meet any deadline, by even 1 minute, will result in the immediate and permanent implementation of all stated consequences. She then turned to the museum director. Oh, and Arthur, I just won the auction for The Weaver's Code. Anonymously, of course. It's a lovely piece. The artist shows great promise. She smiled, a small, knowing smile. I should know. I'm the artist. With that, she gathered her simple pashmina, turned, and walked out of the museum, leaving the smoking crater of the Vanderbilt dynasty behind her. What would you do if you had that kind of power? Would you seek revenge, or would you seek justice? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and share this video, because the world needs to hear more stories about how quiet power can bring the loudest arrogance to its knees. The transformation was not just televised, it was seismic. 2 years later, the world was a different place, reshaped by the quiet power of a woman in a simple black dress. Amara Sterling stood at the podium at the World Economic Forum in Davos. True power, she said, her voice calm and clear, doesn't announce itself with threats and insults. It builds systems that make threats and insults obsolete. The story of that night at the Getty had become a legend, a case study at Harvard Business School called the Ethel Red Protocol, using economic leverage for systemic social change. Beatrice Vanderbilt, stripped of her socialite status, found a strange, unexpected peace. She fulfilled her ultimatum, working full-time at a homeless shelter in Skid Row. She discovered a humility she never knew she possessed. Her book, Unlearning Privilege, became a surprise bestseller, and she donated every dollar of the proceeds to housing initiatives. She and Amara developed an unlikely friendship, built not on social standing, but on a shared, hard-won understanding of true charity. Richard Vanderbilt learned the most difficult lesson of his life, that his employees were more than numbers on a spreadsheet. By ceding control of his company to an employee-owned trust and promoting diverse leadership, Vanderbilt Holdings didn't just survive, it thrived. Innovation soared, and employee satisfaction skyrocketed. The company's stock price tripled. He found he was a better man as a partner than he ever was as a king. Clarissa Vanderbilt became the Internet's most powerful voice for digital ethics and mental health. Her year of forced penance turned into a lifelong passion. She used her platform to champion anti-bullying legislation and created a foundation that provided therapy and support for victims of online harassment. She found more fulfillment in helping one teenager log off than she ever had from 1 million likes. And Congressman Harrison Vanderbilt, in the ultimate act of atonement, did not just resign. He cooperated fully with the Department of Justice investigation that exposed deep-rooted corruption in campaign finance, leading to the most significant reforms in a generation. He served 2 years in a minimum security prison and spent the rest of his life teaching civics at a community college, his lessons imbued with the profound weight of his own failure and redemption. The Rothel Protocols, as they became known in a nod to a similar, earlier incident, were adopted by hundreds of Fortune 500 companies. Morality clauses became standard. The world began to understand that a company's values were as important as its value. Amara's story is a roadmap. It teaches us that when you are underestimated, when you are judged and dismissed, you have a choice. You can internalize their judgment, or you can use it as fuel. You can let it break you, or you can let it motivate you to build something so powerful, so just, and so undeniable that their judgment becomes utterly irrelevant. Every single one of us faces our own Getty Gala. A moment when we are told we are not enough, that we don't belong. What is your Amara moment? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience could be the spark that inspires someone else to find their own quiet power. Tag a friend who needs to hear this message. And subscribe for more stories of those who turned injustice into a force for undeniable change. Remember, your dignity is not up for negotiation. Your worth is not determined by their labels. The next time someone tries to put you in your place, have the courage to show them that your place is wherever you decide to stand. Power doesn't have to be loud to change the world.